Mr. Chairman, and on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago delegation, which includes Dr. Stephen Ramroop, the head of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, and Mr. Hayden Monzano of the Ministry of Finance and Economy. We are pleased to participate in this particular meeting here. And just to place it in a geographical context, Trinidad and Tobago is an archipelagic state in the southern Caribbean, lying northeast of the South American nation of Venezuela and south of Grenada in the Lesser Antilles, ranging between 10 degrees north and 11.5 degrees north latitude, and between 60 degrees west and 62 degrees west longitude. And it also shares maritime boundaries with Barbados and to the northeast, that is to the northeast, and east in terms of from a southwestern point of view to with Guyana. And the country covers an area of 5,128 square kilometers and consists of two main islands, Trinidad and Tobago. And Trinidad and Tobago lies on the southern margins of the Atlantic hurricane belt and normally escapes the passage of cyclones and hurricanes and so on. But what is important as we focus on disaster reduction and climate change in Trinidad and Tobago, in order to increase our nation's resiliency, a strategy incorporating disaster reduction, risk reduction, and climate change adoption into public investment policies has been implemented. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has undertaken a number of measures, and just to highlight a few. One, a careful analysis of the vulnerabilities specific to our twin island nation and dynamic characteristics of the population. Two, tailoring our programs and policies to ensure that the most appropriate avenues for protecting the lives and livelihoods of the citizens were achieved. Three, ensuring that every activity geared towards disaster risk reduction has been informed by relevant guiding documents, such as the Comprehensive Disaster Management Policy Framework for Action and the Enhanced Comprehensive Disaster Management Strategy. Trinidad and Tobago's exposure to risk. Trinidad and Tobago is vulnerable to the following. One, with being geographically located, we are geographically located outside of the Atlantic hurricane belt, and as a result, we are not totally immune to the effects of passing hurricanes or cyclones. Exposure to significant seismic risk as a result of the fault lines on which we are located. Risk to our population and economy due to the heavy reliance on industrial activities coupled with a geographically or a dramatically changing landscape from the point of view of, if you have been to Trinidad and Tobago and you are familiar with the energy sector and the activities which takes place on the Point Lisas industrial estate. According to the Global Assessment Report on Disaster Risk Reduction 2013, small island developing states such as Trinidad and Tobago have the world's highest relative disaster risk. Overcoming a major challenge for us in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the biggest challenges faced is the myth, or we go about with a phrase that God is a Trini. When emergency warnings are issued, most times people tend to disregard the warnings that are issued in relation to the importance of safeguarding life and property. In order to combat this shortcoming, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, the ODPM, introduced its community organized and ready for emergencies, or what is called the CORE program, which was an initiative that came about in 2010, and it has been occurring in what we would call at a local government level across the local government bodies throughout Trinidad and Tobago. CORE has allowed for the collection of critical data to identify trends and shifts in the frequency and intensity of hazard impacts, particularly in rural areas. CORE has evolved to embody a different theme annually, starting with flooding, the safer building, followed by emergency planning with a particular focus on special needs population. Arising from the CORE initiative, further steps were taken to regularly train skilled persons in communities as part of a national volunteer program and community emergency response teams. Within recent times, there have been collaborative projects taking place with international support agencies. Primarily, the Inter-American Development Bank funded initiative aimed at improving the delivery of comprehensive disaster management in Trinidad and Tobago through the creation of a profile of a disaster risk at national level. 2, partnering with the UNDP to implement a project to develop capacity for disaster risk management, targeting areas such as critical facilities protection and the emergency communication system. 3, the United States government, through the U.S. Southern Command, has offered to assist the government to construct 5 disaster relief warehouses to treat with the distribution of relief items, not only within Trinidad and Tobago, but to take into consideration Guyana, Suriname, and Grenada, where Trinidad and Tobago will act as a sub-regional focal point in times of need. Combating risk from a Caribbean level point of view. It is public knowledge that Trinidad and Tobago has been a member of CRIF. The CRIF is a risk pooling facility owned, operated, and registered in the Caribbean for Caribbean governments. The facility shares the Bretton Woods institution's goal of promoting sustainable economic growth and development, ensuring environmental, social, and fiscal sustainability, and reducing poverty. The CRIF and CARICOM governments to purchase coverage that would provide them with an early cash payment after the occurrence of a major catastrophic event. The facility allows for the rapid payment of claims to affected countries, since the use of parametric triggers implies that payment is triggered by the intensity of the event rather than being a function of damage incurred. Trinidad and Tobago is one of the founding members of CRIF since its inception 7 years ago, has maintained maximum coverage in the occurrence of adverse natural events such as cyclones, hurricanes, and earthquakes. Our Caribbean countries have benefited tremendously from this facility, and this has been seen with what occurred in Haiti, and Haiti was the beneficiary of US $7.75 million in 2010 after the devastating earthquake. Barbados, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines receiving approximately $8.56 million 3.24 million and US 1.09 million, respectively, in 2010 after Hurricane Thomas swept across the region. From the point of view of combating risk at the local level, we have embarked on a comprehensive plan to alleviate the perennial problem of flash flooding. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has adopted a national climate change policy which was laid in the Parliament in July of 2011 in order to encourage the adopting of more efficient, energy-efficient technologies and practices. 3, a green government policy will be developed to enable the reduction of consumables with energy use in relation to government operations. And 4, the mobilization of a consultancy firm to conduct vulnerability risk assessment in order to increase our country's resilience by helping to draft and implement climate change adaptation initiatives. And infrastructural focus within recent times to have seen the government of Trinidad and Tobago focusing on the drainage system in the capital city of Port-of-Spain, because this is something that has plagued successive governments as it relates to when rain falls. And also, coupled with this, we are focusing on hillside degradation due to forest fires. Flooding is indeed a major problem. And more so, the government has received a loan of $120 million US from the IDB, and as a result of this, we have embarked on a comprehensive plan to rehabilitate the storm drainage infrastructure in the capital city of Port-of-Spain. And just moving along, for time purposes, the National Climate Change Policy, the reason for the adoption is very clear on the state from an English-speaking point of view in terms of the slides. And the National Climate Change Policy has been adopted in the context of there's recognition that there's no one-size-fits-it-all approach for countries or sectors. And based on a consideration of national circumstances, developmental aspirations, sectoral characteristics, and cross-sectoral interaction, and based on achieving sustainable development in accordance with the Millennium Development Goals. The overall vision in the context of coping with the adverse impacts of climate change, adapting to the adverse impacts of climate change through integration with all sectors of national development from the point of view of infrastructure, human and socio-economic system, and the overall objective focusing on conserving and building resilience of human and natural systems to adapt to the adverse impact of climate change. Because at the end of the day, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, building resilience is the most important aspect from where we sit as a government. And I say so in the context of over the last 4 years, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has focused on what we would call people-centered development and improving the quality of life of all the citizens. And this has been seen through the establishment of what is called a Ministry of the People and Social Development. And in addition to the Ministry of People and Social Development, there has been a cross collaboration of the Ministry of Water Resources and the Environment, and of course the Ministry of Local Government and the Ministry of Community Development in relation to building the whole concept of resilience. Because in spite of whatever sums of monies that you may put or pump into a particular process or a particular system, if you do not build the resilience through education and through communication of risk concern, then we would be failing in our responsibility to focus really on risk reduction. So from that point of view, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, because of time purposes and so on, I will want to bring my presentation to an end, but just from the point of view of financing implementation, the implementation of the policy is through government funding, but augmented where appropriate through accessing grants from international organizations, through the preparation of project proposals, and through bilateral and multilateral cooperation. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the initiative too has also been seen through the establishment. If I go back, you would say that we have created what is called opportunities under a green fund, and it gives an insight into the establishment and how the Green Fund has been established and for what purposes the deposits in this particular fund should be used from the point of view of reforestation and environmental education and public awareness of environmental issues and also conservation of the environment. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and from my point of view, that is where the public financing initiatives of the government of Trinidad and Tobago has been focusing in relation to incorporating disaster risk reduction and climate change into public investment policies. Thank you very much.